first thing that we are going to do today is I just want you to think about some of your seafood consumption habits, okay? So I know some of you might not eat seafood, maybe some of you are even like allergic to seafood. Is anyone allergic to seafood?
I love seafood.
If you love it, this is even better, okay? So here's the first thing I want us to do. Answer just the first 6 questions. So questions number 1 through 6, just by yourself. We're going to talk about it here in a minute, but for now, just answer by yourself. They don't have to be really long answers. Just think about maybe if you don't like seafood, think about what kind of seafood maybe your family likes, a friend that you have likes, a seafood that you know is popular. But try and make it as personal as you can. And we're not going to take a really long time. Let's just take, I don't know, like 2 minutes or so. A fish in Pennsylvania, trout. That's a trout. Everybody awake? All right. Okay, so let's chat about it. What kind of seafood do you guys like to eat? Sushi? Salmon, not liking sushi, so cooked things. Crab, oysters, shrimp, lobster. I think we're a seafood loving class. Does anyone here? Oh, I like scallops too.
Calamari.
Anyone like octopus?
I've never had octopus. I've had shark.
It's a little chewy.
Shark's pretty good.
Okay. So do you guys eat most of your seafood out in restaurants or do you eat them at home?
Both.
Both? Halfsies? Okay. Have we ever thought in here or talked about at all, where does seafood come from? Obviously the ocean, but like, how is it caught and handled?
Fishing.
Fishing?
I can actually tell you a lot about that. One of my jobs in the summer is I'm actually a commercial fisherman.
Oh, well there you go. What kind of fish?
I commercially fish for striped bass for the most part. We also fish for bluefish and bluefin tuna every once in a while.
Okay, awesome.
We do drop lobster pots too. So.
Okay, we're going to talk about a couple of those specific types of fish a little bit later and even a little bit more detail. What do you guys think sustainable, I'm just skipping down here to number 5. What do you think sustainable seafood means, if you got there?
Seafood that can support a certain population.
Okay, so seafood that can support a certain population. Another part of that?
Is it like sustainable farming? Like
Yeah.
where you just harvest seafood so you can eat it?
Yeah, so you're thinking of subsistence farming.
Oh, okay.
But there is sustainable farming too. So what's the other important part, guys, of sustainable farming and fishing besides just population? Do you know, Mia?
Like you don't take too much, like so that it's not like
Yeah, so it doesn't harm the population of the food that you're eating and also the environment. So those are the other two bits that go with sustainable fishing and also sustainable farming. Perfect. For number 6, what seafood do you think you would miss the most if you were no longer able to eat it?
Sushi.
Salmon.
All of
Sushi,
it.
salmon, shrimp. I'm glad you like seafood so much. Okay guys, so here's what we're going to do now. We're going to watch 2 short videos. We're going to watch one, then we're going to take a break and talk about it, and then we're going to watch the other one. So the first one is called Declining Fish, and I want you to look at just a couple things. So an important idea or statistic, it doesn't matter which, from the video, 2 key terms that you sort of pull out that you learned or you found interesting, and then 1 question that you still have unanswered about the topic after we watch the first one. So the first video is about the fish population that is declining. Let me hit the light here so I can see the play button. So the fish population declining, and this one is pretty short. So a
A new
statistic.
report published in Science magazine claims worldwide fish stocks may run out by 2048. By then, the study says, populations of harvestable fish species will collapse. Dr. Jeremy Jackson of the Scripps Institute of Oceanography in La Jolla, California, contributed to this report. In 2001, he was lead author of the first of several studies that drew attention to the damages of overfishing. National Geographic spoke with Dr. Jackson 2 years after that study was published.
Well, I think that the notion that we can somehow keep hunting and gathering in the oceans without limit to feed 6 billion people is just pretty stupid. We will never be able to fish at the level we've been fishing.
Jackson's earlier 2-year study set out to trace the decline of many ocean species over several centuries. He and a team of international scientists identified overfishing as more destructive to the ocean than toxic pollution or degrading water quality.
The damage is close to complete, and it's almost certainly reversible, or at least mostly reversible. But what it requires is a utterly different attitude about how we use the ocean.
As Jackson sees it, the remedy for restoring marine ecosystems has to be drastic.
I think we have to protect 1/3 or 40%, or in some cases half of the ocean from fishing for certain species.
Jackson says the off-limits approach will allow fish populations to rebound. The solution is scientifically sound, but politically difficult.
Are we willing to set aside a very large part of the ocean and just not let anybody go there? And it would take all the navies of the world to pretend to enforce those regulations. We need to have the courage to make difficult decisions that will hurt people for the protection of the resource for the future.
Currently in the U.S., Congress is reviewing laws that restrict overfishing and bring scientists into the decision-making process. The report's findings echo Jackson's earlier conclusions that marine ecosystems can be restored, and success depends on setting areas aside from human encroachment. It seems now more than ever, time is of the essence to save the bounty of the sea.
Okey-dokey. All right, so let's think about that first one for a minute. So what is an idea or statistic or something that you pulled out? Go ahead, Dominic.
The fish will start running out by 2048.
2048, that's like kind of soon.
44 years.
44 years?
I already did the calculation.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's pretty soon. So theoretically, cross your fingers,
No.
we should all still be alive.
We'll be like 62.
Wait,
Oh.
2048 isn't in 44 years.
Oh wait, I did 58, my dad. Bad.
Okay, but either way, we will still all be, hopefully, knock on wood, alive, right? Okay, so that's in our lifetime. Anything else that we found interesting about that video? Georgia, go ahead.
His statement about we can't fish for 6 million people.
Okay, not enough fish for 6 million people. Anything else?
6 billion.
Yeah, sorry, six, and I am the one that said 6 million. 6 billion people. Anything else interesting about that particular one? That was short. Any key terms that you picked out?
Overfishing.
Yeah, jinx. Okay, overfishing.
Fishery collapse.
Say again.
Fishery collapse.
Fishery collapse. Okay. How about topics, questions that we have left unanswered about this topic? After that video, questions that maybe that video made you think of.
Why can't we stop overfishing?
Okay, like why can't we stop overfishing? How can we stop overfishing?
Yeah.
How is it gonna affect people who are in the fishery business?
Okay, how might it affect people in the fishing business? Any other ones?
How much it's gonna cost for like those areas we protected?
Oh, that's a good one, because they mentioned like we'd have to protect some places up to 50% of the ocean. How much? It sounds expensive. How much might that cost? The other ones? Any other ideas, questions about that one? Okay, let's watch the next one. This one's a little bit longer. It's about herring. Same idea though, okay? So one important idea or a statistic, 2 terms, and then finally a question. You might have more than one. This video is a little bit longer about the topic.
Check for wild chronicles on your local PBS station.
Sponsored by National Geographic Mission Programs, taking science and exploration
Oh, it's at
into
the end.
new.
Sorry, guys.
This is Wild Chronicles. I'm Boyd Matson. Off the coast of Maine, Captain Daniel Fiddle and his crew dip into cold Atlantic waters to retrieve a treasure that flows like liquid silver. These fish may look nondescript, but they are a veritable linchpin of the world's oceans. They are herring. Under the waves, herring school together in numbers that seem to boggle the imagination. So many that scientists struggle to get an accurate count of their total population. They are a major source of food for a multitude of the world's marine animals that scoop them up with open mouths, or pick them one by one from the water, or stun them with a flick of the tail. For some species, herring are the staff of life. Humans too have been fishing herring for centuries, perhaps millennia. Most of these fish harvested in the Atlantic will go for lobster bait and for animal food, while others will be canned as sardines. It seems this ubiquitous fish is a bountiful resource to be shared by all. But some conservationists, and even fishermen like Captain Dan, are worried that humans may be taking more than their fair share of this ocean treasure.
The trawlers fish year-round. They fish 24 hours a day if they can find fish. And a lot of times they'll steam for days and days and not find fish. I think the trawlers are mainly responsible for the depletion of herring.
The concern centers on this method for fishing herring, called pair trawling. 2 ships pull a net between them. So large you could fit 2 Sydney opera houses inside. So heavy, the nets can't be pulled on deck. Its contents are sucked into the ship with a vacuum. Supporters say it's an effective way to harvest schools of herring. Detractors say the trawlers are depleting herring in some areas and inadvertently killing other species of fish and marine animals.
Nothing bigger than 1.5 or 2 inches can escape the net because of the mesh size. The fishing pattern that these ships employ is much like plowing a field or vacuuming your carpet back and forth 24 hours a day until the individual schools are wiped out.
It may seem difficult to believe that such a populous fish could be wiped out, but it's happened before. Foreign fishing fleets collapsed herring stocks along the Atlantic seaboard in the 1970s. The population eventually bounced back and fishing resumed. Proponents of trawlers say there's no hard evidence that herring stocks are falling again, and say the industry only takes about 10% of the Atlantic's estimated population. The conservationists worry about something called localized depletion, when a species is wiped out of one particular area. Some tuna fishermen claim that overfishing of herring by trawlers has already led to a serious drop in the local tuna that feed on them.
Herring is a forage fish. It's eaten by other things in the system. It's part of a category of marine life that we think deserves special attention now, because when you remove these essential pillars of the food chain, there's a tendency for other things around them to collapse.
Conservationists also worry that trawlers are killing other species with their massive nets.
So we're going to go through and we're going to measure every 10 fish.
In a Massachusetts warehouse, they search for this so-called bycatch in a shipment of herring and find some rogue fish.
So we've got a mackerel.
They believe, however, this end product doesn't tell the whole story. That trawlers may actually be dumping most, if not all, of their dead bycatch long before they get to the dock to unload the herring.
27. Another major problem is that these fishermen are allowed, it's perfectly legal, for them to simply dump the contents of an entire net without ever pumping it on board if they have reason to believe it's fish they either don't want or shouldn't have.
Conservation groups have tried to monitor the trawlers, but it's difficult to do from afar. In this video, you can see dozens of endangered pilot whales following a pair of trawlers to feast on herring. But only a handful of official observers are ever actually on the ships to monitor what's going on. Instead, trawlers are supposed to report their bycatch voluntarily.
We really don't know what's being thrown overboard on these ships. Here on the East Coast, these boats carry observers less than 3% of the time. This is sort of the honor system of fisheries management, or as I like to call it, the don't ask, don't tell policy.
Trawler spokesmen vehemently deny that they're secretly dumping illegal catch and say their nets are designed to allow larger prey to escape off the sides. But Captain Dan, who has worked on a trawler, says bycatch is indeed a serious problem. Since trawler nets are so massive, everything caught inside them usually suffocates from the crush of bodies.
I see a lot of waste in midwater trawling, a lot of bycatch issues. A whale will not rip through a trawl net, and a midwater trawl net, they get caught up in the vacuum of the net. There's no way out of that one for them, and they'll suffocate. They can't come to the surface because the boat is towing them around.
He now prefers a potentially less lucrative, less intense method of fishing herring in a boat called a purse seine.
In the purse seine, if you got bycatch, then you can release the bycatch in a poor purse or tuna, which can only go through the net.
America's commercial fisheries are controlled by regional management boards. The Pew Environment Group is leading a campaign to have the herring quotas reassessed and to limit and closely monitor pair trawlers. For many, herring may be small fish, but they're part of a large problem. We've become so efficient at fishing that we may be imperiling all ocean life.
What marine scientists worldwide are telling us is that we are essentially vacuuming the world's oceans of much of the life that they contain. The management regimes which are in place for these fish, which impose quotas on how many can be taken out of the water, really don't take into account anything else. They don't take into account the needs of seabirds, or whales, or marine mammals, or other fish.
Many believe that when it comes to this important world resource, we need to take our fair share, but nothing more. Check for wild comments on your local PBS station.
Sponsored by National Geographic.
Let's think about that one. Okay. So what was an idea that you came up with that?
I just had a quick question. When was this made?
This video 2009. Okay. That's a good question. Relevance. I like it. Any ideas about what stuck out to you from that video? Important statistic.
Too many herring to count.
Okay, that was a lot of fish, right? Too many herring to even know exactly how much there are, how many there are. Anything else? Yeah, Maddie?
I find it like somewhat disturbing and like disheartening that like they only look at like every 10th fish. Like, I mean, I understand that there are a lot of fish and that it maybe wouldn't be realistic to look at all of them, but I don't know, it just like weirds me out.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're going to be the one that ends up eating one of the fish that they didn't look at, which 9 out of 10 people would be. So that is an understandable concern. Any other ideas? Yeah.
Then again, when the only thing about the commercially fished kind of herring that they catch in the nets like that, most of them go back into the commercial fishing system that they use
bait.
for live bait and chum. I mean,
Right.
most of the herring that they use for consumption isn't caught like that. It's caught
Right.
differently than
Differently.
By-
You are what you eat.
by trawling nets.
Yeah. Any other statistics, any that stuck out in particular?
They only catch 10% of the herring.
Yeah, allegedly there's only 10% of the herring that they catch out of the whole population. Any terms that they kind of threw a lot of terms?
Hair
Trawling, bycatch,
localized depletion.
localized depletion. Those are 3 important ones that we'll come back to. And how about any questions that are particularly stuck?
How does the 10% we take affect other species?
Does the 10% that we take affect other species? What else?
I was also wondering, like, is that 10% just for the U.S.? Is there other countries that are also taking 10% of the herring population? 10% altogether?
Okay, so like how many countries is that 10% referring to? Because they didn't really explain that in the video.
They said it was referring to the East Coast population of herring.
Just the East Coast population of herring, so 10% of the East Coast population.
So
we can,
like West Coast, China could be taking 10% as well.
right, and we can assume that that could be the United States, it could include Canada.
There are some more cold water fish, so they're really not going to have them.
Right.
Most places, like Pacific Ocean's a little warmer than that.
So they won't necessarily have them. We're going to talk about like which fish go where at the end of today a little bit. Okie dokie. So here's what we're going to look at now. All right. So I'm going to pass out a couple things to you, and I will explain. Okay. So. So then why don't you come up here and join us? Or,
Yeah.
this
It was last year,
You're all
it
alone.
was 16 degrees. It was
Go in there beside you.
ice chunks in the water. And it was the coldest day that I started, I actually cried. So I got in the car and the water from like the heat in the car made my body feel like it was falling apart.
You might want to do it.
So bad.
Okay guys, let me explain what we're going to do here. There's 11 terms, okay? So here's what we're going to do. I'll assign them and then I'll tell you specifically what you're going to do. Okay, so Caleb and Matt, can you guys do 1 and 2? And I'll explain exactly what that means in 1 second. Rachel and Chase, can you guys do 3 and 4? Devin and Dominic, can you do, oh, sorry, Devin and Dominic, yeah, can you do 5 and 6? All right, Courtney and Angela, can you guys do 1 at the bottom? 2. Lindsay, Dakota, Kylie, you guys do 2. Last. I counted wrong. Okay, we'll go back. That's okay. Mitch and Ian, can you guys do 3? Andrew and Mina, can you do 4? Okay. Destin and Jordan, can you please do 5? And then I'm just gonna have to go back here because I counted. Yeah, so Matt and Caleb, you guys are just gonna do 1. And then Sarah and Georgia do 2. And then instead of 3 and 4. Rachel and Chase just do 3. And then Nate, can you just do 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Does everyone know what they're doing? Since we went back and forth, well, I didn't explain what, but does everybody know what numbers they're doing? Yeah? Okay. So here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to create something really simple called a concept map. So you each have a colored piece of paper, you and your partner. So all you need to do to start out with is just draw a triangle. Okay? Any triangle will be okay. And then here's what we're going to do, okay? So based on what number you have,
How big is this triangle?
however big you want the triangle, well, you need some room for writing, just a little bit, okay? So, so you either have the fishery sustainability description or the definition. So here's what we're going to do. For this side of the triangle, you want to write the definition of whatever your term or description is in your own words, so try not to use the word to define the word. So definition of whatever your word is, and then here on the second side, characteristics. So that would be like an adjective to describe whatever you're looking at, okay, whatever your term is. And then at the bottom here, some examples, okay? So definition, characteristics, examples. So first, you and your partnership there are going to have to read your definition, term, description, and then definition in your own words, characteristics, and examples. Good? Okay, and then we're going to share them out right after we do this. Okay? So also pick one person who wants to talk. Just take like 5 minutes. Does everybody remember which one they were doing?
No, these are the descriptions, no? Wait. But these,
Yeah.
oh, so these are completely different?
Yeah, it's different.
Aaron would be an example.
That'd be an example.
Tuna.
Not even should be like population. Fish. Herring.
Is this actually marine? Can this be like pond stuff too?
That could be pond stuff too. That's okay.
Yeah, let's say that. This new bomb?
Yeah.
So we're doing like a last fishery for like an example. Do we need to put like a type of fish that's going
Yeah, that'd be a good example. There's so many, but it's nearing collapsion again. Collapsion, it's not really a word, but.
The definition.
Yeah, that would be okay for that one. Because that fishery, right? Yes, yeah, so any particular. Yeah, you got a pretty easy.
Well, no, it's like they stop fishing them and then let that population. Yeah, so essentially that is released.
How do I work?
Fish, that doesn't publish. After it's over.
I mean, are we like the characters?
Yeah.
Yeah, these would be like characteristics. Examples would be like what's an example of fish management? Yeah, like anyone who regulates any government. Well, like each state has their own like fish licensing. Like that would be. Yes. Yeah.
An ability
Not that any are bad, but that's the community.
Oh, the community service ones?
They do senior community awards and then senior awards like. So like. Do we have to wear a cap and gown for the awards? Wear a cap and gown. You don't know. No. I was pretty sure we were. The board example. That was it. No, that was when I wanted to get to all of my dungeons. Say it.
We're just looking for more examples.
And then we will run.
So this way to be complete. You could also say like any fish that spirits like.
Well, you can just run through.
Moo! Okay, does anybody need more time?
Maybe a minute.
Okay, let's take one more minute. I see some of us are still working. Oops, wrong way. So let's take one more minute, see if we can finish up. And then if you're already done, guys, make sure you know who's going to speak. Maybe you're going to alternate speaking. Maybe one of you's going to say the characteristics. There it is again. Okay. All right, guys. So we're just going to go in order. Does that make sense? We need to make sure we're listening, so we all are becoming a little bit more familiar with these definitions. Okay. Everybody ready? So Caleb and Matt, you guys had the first one.
Our definition is, the process of catching fish or other aquatic animals. Characteristics are like using a rod, using a net, you use your hands, like spear fishing. And then examples are trout, bass, guppy, sunfish, bluegill, shark.
Yeah, I think that's fun. Good, great, awesome. Awesome. This is Sarah and Georgia, right, for number 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
So ours was sustainable fishing. Fishing for the human population without depleting the population of fish.
And then we said that the qualities were is safe, well prized for baking and wine.
Good.
And the examples are lobster, trout, salmon, tuna, and shrimp.
Because all of those can be farmed sustainably. Good. Rachel and Chase, you guys had 3, right? Okay.
We said it was fishery operating at a high rate and amount that most likely will increase.
Okay. Good.
And then the characteristics, they're fished at a quick and steady rate, and there's a high output. And then for examples, we did herring fishing or any fish that are near extinction.
Great. Okay. Nate and Mia.
Okay, we did overexploited fishery, An overexploited fishery is a kind of fish that is in danger of extinction due to the prevalence of overfishing. Some characteristics and causes would be trawling, unlimited quotas, lack of regulation, and depletion of food supply for the larger fish.
Good.
Some examples would be herring, blue and yellowfin tuna, marlin, striped bass, golden trout, rainbow trout, lobster, sharks.
Lots of them. Awesome, awesome. Dominic and Devin.
Okay.
Okay.
Collapsed fishery, it's where like a type of fish is nearing extinction, so the population is decreasing. The characteristics are that it, like once it hits 10% or less of the population, that's when it's like considered collapsing. It's characterized by like overfishing and stuff like that. And our example is herring fishing.
Okay, because that was collapsed, then it was, yeah. And then you guys have recovery fishing as well, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, recovering fishery, it's when like a certain species of fish is experiences a collapse and then it recovers and it gets fished again. And then characteristics would be like overfishing and then collapsed fishery. And an example of herring.
So that was collapsed pretty much in the 1970s. Okay, this is Courtney and Angela, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we had overfishing, and the definition, decrease in marine species due to an excess in fishing and advance in technology. Doesn't allow for proper reproduction of fish and other marine wildlife.
Great.
Characteristics, advanced technology, and examples, a decline in tuna and cod over the past 30 years.
Good, awesome. Okay, yes, it has been a problem, especially as the population has increased. Oh, right, this is ladies in the center.
We had illegal fishing. The definition would be when vessels conduct unreported or unregulated fishing and inject curfews to overfishing when fisheries ignore or violate regulations. And that can be done by taking undersized fish, using illegal gear, catching more than the legal limit, fishing in closed areas or fishing in closed seasons.
Characteristics, yes.
That too. It could be referred to as overfishing, unreported fishing, unregulated fishing, or poaching. And it can threaten poor regions of the world that rely on fisheries for food security and income.
Great. Awesome. Habitat damage, that's what you guys have here.
Our definition was damage to an environment or ecosystem as a byproduct of human consumption. Characteristic would be gradual population loss that throws ecosystems out of homeostasis. And examples would be overfishing, destruction of coral reefs, water pollution, and destructive fishing behavior.
Good, great. Coral reefs, good to mention. That is you? Yeah. Why did I write M? Which means me not making your last name. Okay, go ahead. Just kidding. Go ahead.
Bycatch definition: actions of catching unwanted sea life.
And then some characteristics that 1 out of every 4 fish caught is usually bycatch, and long lines and trawls are the main reason for bycatch.
Then an example would just be like having a tuna when you're trying to catch herring.
Oh, great. Yeah, that is a good example. And lastly, Justin and Jordan.
So we have fisheries management.
Okay.
That's pretty much just taking control over the fishing population. And some characteristics are like regulations that require limits to catch, and they stop the general illegal fishing. And examples are like the railroad people stop hunting in Japan and stuff, and fishing licenses.
Yeah, any licensing agency, any protection agency. Great, awesome job. Okay guys, so just set that to the side for a minute. We're now going to move on and talk about where specific types of fish are located, where specific fish are located in the world. So I'm going to give the same partners that you were working in one map and one chart and one colored pencil. And I will let you, or that'll work if you have your own colored writing apparatus, that would work as well. And you can decide who you would like to be in charge of the chart, who you would like to be in charge of the map. And I will explain this in just a second here. let you make your decision about the chart and the map. You guys can just rotate.
Are we trying this first?
Yeah. That would make sense because of the ocean.
That's never good.
Okay guys, so one of us is in charge of the map. One of us is in charge of the chart, okay? Right, we good? Yes. Map people, put your hands up. Who's in charge of the map? Chart people, put your hands up. Who's in charge of the chart? Okay, looks good. All right, so let me explain this, guys. Instead of taking actual like physical notes on the different areas of fish in the world, made it just a little bit easier. So on the chart, you'll notice that there are 5 major areas that are outlined, right? So you've got the 5 major fishing areas across the top, and then down the left side, there's a couple different characteristics, okay? So chart people, your job is, as we go over the characteristics of this particular, whatever particular region we're talking about, your job is to put an X in all of the characteristics that apply to this particular region, okay? And characteristics can apply to more than one region. So for example, regions 2 and 3 and 5 might all have temperate climates. Okay, that's just an example. Map person, you are the one that needs the colored pencil, and your job is to shade in the area that that the particular area of fishing applies to. So we'll do the first one slowly and together, okay? So the very first region of the world that, so these are the top 5 fish producing regions of the world, okay? That's why they're important. The first region is what? You guys have it on your chart. The Northwest Pacific. Okay, so we've located the Pacific Ocean here and also over there, but we're looking at the west, okay? So the northwestern Pacific Ocean off the coast of northern Japan, northern China, North Korea, well, both Koreas, and northeastern Russia in the Bering Sea. So map people, you want to just shade in the North Pacific here.
We count like the Sea of Japan and stuff.
Yeah. This whole area around Japan and Korea, okay? The Northwestern Pacific. All right. Okay. So Northwest Pacific has a bunch of different reasons that it's really good for producing fish, especially the type of fish that people like to eat. So first off, it's a temperate region. If you guys have ever been, has anyone ever been to like Northern California, San Francisco area? It's kind of the same-ish temperature all the time. It's what's called a temperate climate. So northern latitudes produce temperate regions. So that's the first characteristic that is helpful in sustaining large fish populations. Secondly, a mixing of currents. So you've got that really cold water coming out of the Arctic, and you've got the warm water flowing up from Southern California, Baja area, and it's contributing to a really high diversity, so lots of different kinds of fishes. Or fish, because fishes isn't a word. Yes. Next, really long coastlines. So all down North America, as well as Japan, Russia, China, they all have really, really long coastlines. And besides really long coastlines, what else does perhaps Japan, Russia, and China have in common? not a lot of ports. And what else? What does Russia, Japan, and China all have in common? Ports, it also starts with a P. Pirates. It's something we all have in common.
There's people.
Yeah, there's lots of people, okay, or a high population, not so much pirates either, but a really high high population. So lots of fishermen, lots of primary activities. Okay. Woo! All right, so that's one. Number 2, so offshore eastern Canada. All right, so map people, we're shading off eastern Canada, where the Titanic sank. Newfoundland, this whole area, okay? So the Grand Banks, Newfoundland, offshore of eastern Canada. And then later we're going to talk about like what kinds of fish come from each of these different areas. Okay, so offshore eastern Canada also has something very in common with the Northwest Pacific in that they have a temperate region as well, temperate water, which is good for producing lots of fish. Secondly, kind of similar to the first, so there's mixing ocean currents producing a large amount of different kinds of fish, but also really conducive to them having thriving lives and having a good habitat to live in, okay? So a continental shelf as well as mixing ocean currents and the whole temperate region also allows for really good fishing off the eastern shore of Canada. On to the third one here, okay? So the third one, we're at off the North Atlantic coast of Western Europe and Norway. So up here, Norway, near Iceland, the North Atlantic Ocean, okay? That whole area, Northwest Europe, Norway, England, Iceland, Ireland, Scandinavia, another very important region.
Are we stretching all the way over to like Russia, like the northeastern, northwestern part?
No, you don't need to go that far. That's okay. So the North Atlantic coast that we were just talking about, once again, something else in common as you might imagine because it's above the Tropic of Cancer and between the Arctic Circle. Another temperate region up in northern latitudes. But then this is a characteristic that is unique to just this third region. So because of the way that the land, the earth is shaped off of Northwest Europe, it's able to keep a lot of the areas free from ice, which makes for good fishing all year round. And cold water fishing all year round. So that's the North Sea. They're able to fish that the whole year round because of the shallow water and the submerged land allows for it to not freeze as it does closer to the North Pole and the Arctic Circle. So they can fish all year round. Okay, the fourth, so we're heading south a little bit now. So this is what's called the Eastern Equatorial Pacific off the coast of Peru. Okay? So right around the equator in the Pacific Ocean near Peru. Good fishing area right here. Okay. And this also has a couple unique characteristics that are a lot different from the other ones we talked about, because the other ones we talked about were all pretty far north. Yes, much warmer climate. So here we have cooler movement of the ocean under the water, like under the surface, the deep ocean is what I'm trying to say, moving towards the ocean's surface, especially off the coast of South America and California. We talked about this one. This is a shared characteristic with a couple other bilge fishing areas, so mixing currents as referenced in the first one, a high diversity of different kinds of fish. And then this is another one as well. So long areas of coastlines, the whole coast of South America, Central America, there's a lot of fishing that takes place because also high populations. But what is maybe a little bit different if you're thinking about industry from South America to North America? What are more people likely to be involved in South America?
Subsistence.
Subsistence, and what kind of industries?
Primary.
Agriculture, which is?
Primary.
Primary, yay, okay, yeah, so primary industries are a little bit more prevalent, a little bit more likely in South America than North America. Okay, and then our very last region here, so region 5, it's the northeastern Pacific from Alaska all the way down to the coast through California. Okay, so the northeastern Pacific. Now, I don't know if you guys know that. I already asked. Has anyone been to San Francisco? I didn't see a lot of hands. A couple people. Okay. If you have, did you go to Alcatraz?
No.
No? Maybe? Yes? Okay, yes and a no. Did you guys know, do you know what Alcatraz is, that, like, prison? Mm-hmm. The San Francisco Bay is one of the largest breeding areas for great white sharks in the world. And they made Alcatraz there because even if prisoners escaped and tried to swim to shore, most times they were eaten anyway.
Cool.
Yep, fun fact of the day.
Were there like a lot of people who tried to escape?
Yeah.
And they died.
They called Alcatraz like inescapable. Not so much because you couldn't get off the island, but because you like couldn't actually make it back to California. Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it's a bummer. So speaking of that area, so we know that they produce sharks, lots of sharks, but also, once again, temperate regions, cooler water from the bottom of the ocean moving up towards the surface. Here as well, we have a continental shelf, which makes the habitat really, really good for the fish in that particular area, and then again, really long coastlines. Alaska the whole way down to California. North America, we have a lot of different technology that's all good for fishing and deep water fishing. Okay? So that was just a couple different examples. So now, okay, so person with the chart. Turn your chart over. Person with the map. Just, you don't need to turn it over, but you can grab a pen that is not colored, like a black or blue would be good. Okay?
Pencil work or?
Pencil will work too. That's okay. Pencil's okay. Just something that's like a different color. Okay, so here's what we're going to look at, guys. We're now going to look at a couple different types of fish that are sustainable. Some are not sustainable. We're going to look at the sustainability. Does anyone in here eat cod? It's like, a lot of times guys, if you get like fried fish, like fish and chips,
I can eat fish and chips.
well, a lot of times that's cod.
It's always
Okay?
cod.
Yes, most times, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be cod.
Or
Okay.
addict's the best though.
So I'll post this link on Vision in case anyone also happens to be interested. So here's what this website does. It tells you sustainability, omega-3 content, that's like the good fat for you that you want to eat. It's good for like your brain and your eyes and development. And then mercury level, which is more about if you're pregnant, which isn't necessary right now, but pregnant and also young people aren't supposed to eat a lot of mercury. You guys ever heard that, like pregnant women aren't supposed to eat sushi?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why. Okay, so let's take a look at cod. Thank you. Okay, so cod. Okay, that's for Sarah. All right, so interestingly enough, cod, guys, is something that is right on the brink of collapse right now. Okay? So it's something that's been very overfarmed, overfished. There's not very much Atlantic cod left. So here's what people with the chart are going to do. So the chart, we just talked about our very first type of fish, right? So in number 1, under seafood type 1, all you want to do is write Atlantic cod. And then underneath that, it says sustainability level. So Atlantic cod is something you want to avoid because it's so close to being a collapsed species. So right avoid, yep. And then, so what area, which of the 5 major areas do we think Atlantic cod is in?
3. North Atlantic.
The one near Europe. The one near Europe. North Atlantic.
For the most part, it's not.
Yeah, so it's going to be in region 3. Okay, so map people, you're just going to write Atlantic cod, right where you had the North Atlantic. So that's the one that's off the coast of Canada. No, sorry, just kidding. Off the coast of Northwest Europe and Norway. Sorry, just kidding. Okay, so right where region 3 is, North Atlantic coast of Europe and Norway. I'm just going to write Atlantic cod. Good. Okay, I tried to pick some seafood that maybe I tried to anticipate some seafood that you guys might say. Alaskan salmon. Anybody like salmon?
Yeah, a little bit.
What do you think? Think it's going to be sustainable?
Actually,
Maybe.
it's actually decently sustainable.
It is incredibly sustainable. Okay, so Alaskan salmon. Remember, there's lots of different types of salmon. So for seafood type 2, Alaskan salmon, sustainable's best. So what that means, guys, is you can eat Alaskan salmon and feel like good about it. Okay? So it means that you've got, yeah, high omega-3s too, so it's good for you, it's sustainable, and it's farmed in ways that don't harm the environment, which is important.
And the pregnant women need it.
And also pregnant women can have some salmon too, yes.
It's like
low mercury level.
the thing that like a lot of pregnant women get sick over.
Yeah, and also like the mercury levels is something you really need to watch, because that can harm your babies. So we've got Alaskan salmon, great for sustainability. Where do you think it's going to be located?
Northeast Pacific.
Northeast Pacific. So map people, right in the Northeast Pacific, you just write yourself Alaskan salmon.
Why didn't you put cod on the coast off of Canada too?
It's because North Atlantic cod, and then there's like a different type of cod. It's like almost the same, but it's like it has a different name.
Okay.
I kind of meant to pick the one off Canada, but I accidentally picked the other one,
Okay.
so we're just going with it.
Why is it called Alaskan salmon if it's not in Alaska?
It is. No, this one is in Alaska. So the Northeast.
Oh, I put this in the wrong place.
The Northeast Pacific, so Dakota, like right here, like right.
Oh, I put this on the very other end of the.
Did you put it on this one? Just draw yourself an arrow. It's okay. No worries. King crab. Anybody like crab legs?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, crab legs. Okay, delicious. Let's see here. Crab. King crab. Pretty good. Okay, so this holds like a medium sustainability, considered good. Where do we think king crab comes from? There's a lot of different kinds. Where at?
Eastern Canada, yeah.
Most of them are from Alaska.
Northeast and Northwest Pacific. So where we just wrote the Alaskan salmon, and then also the other side, kind of by Japan, Russia, China, etc. Now there's a lot of different kinds of crab, guys. So if you look back here, where I was just looking for crab, where is it? So there's blue crab. That's a different kind from a slightly different area. There's stone crab, which is the kind that we usually get like at the beach, like around here in Maryland. Okay.
What's that word, second one?
Which one?
The second D, right after blue crab.
This kind? That is another kind that's from.
Spider crab.
Yeah, I believe that's also from the East Coast as well for the most part. So there's a bunch of different kinds of crab. I picked the kings. I think those are the ones with the biggest legs.
Yeah, biggest frog.
Sea scallops. Anyone like scallops? I like scallops too. Okay, so sea scallops. There's a couple different ones. So we've got wild and we've got farmed. I picked the wild ones up here. And they also have a medium sustainability level. So you can feel pretty good, pretty okay about eating them. Low omega-3, so not so healthy for you, but tasty. Okay, so a a pretty medium sustainability level. If you look at the farmed, so it's actually a little bit better for the environment and the population of scallops to eat farmed scallops. Even though a lot of times when you go out to eat, is it kind of advertised like wild caught scallops, fresh scallops?
Around here.
Yeah.
Around here, yeah, especially it
The
is.
wild caught scallops or scallops.
Yeah.
Is that the chance of them getting red tide is so high in the wild because if you leave them out when the tides change for long enough, they'll literally kill you if you leave them.
Oh, well that's not so ideal.
Yeah,
So maybe we can just eat farmed.
But they just, if you, like when the tide recedes and they leave them up higher on the beach, and then you farm them like that, the chance, like it's a.
It becomes poisonous.
Yeah,
I think
it's
is what you're
literally
gonna say, right?
yeah, it's poisonous and it like attacks your immune system. It's not good.
Yeah, so be careful when eating
So
scallops.
don't catch your own scallops.
I'll do that.
Where do you think they're from?
Northeast Atlantic.
Where is
Peru.
Two. Yes, the particular sea scallops are generally, not always, because you can get them in the north, in the eastern Pacific as well, but generally from kind of warmer waters, so equatorial Pacific. Okay, we've got just one more. All right, so shrimp. Who likes shrimp? Some shrimp fans? Okay. Take a look at the shrimp here. Okay, so the shrimp farmed in the United States and Canada also given a rating of good. Low omega-3, but fairly good sustainability. And then where do we think shrimp are from? Any guesses?
North Atlantic Ocean.
North Atlantic Ocean, perhaps? Eastern Canada. Yep, so right off the coast of Eastern Canada, Newfoundland area. Great. Perfect. Okay, so we're almost done, guys. We just have a couple minutes left. There's just one more thing we're going to do for wrap up, okay? So on a sheet of paper, you can use the back of, so map people, why don't you just use the back of the map? And then other group, other partner pair, why don't you just use the back of the triangle?
Do we just write both of our names on it?
But I want you to do this individually.
Okay.
Okay? So map people, just use the back of the map. Other people, just use the back of your concept triangle. Okay? Their turn to set. Okay? So I'm gonna collect this part. Okay? So here's what I want us to think about. And this ties back to the unit back a little bit earlier in the year on population. So world's fisheries and fishing relate to levels of human population and seafood consumption. Think about where populated cities are, like geographically, okay? Do you think that raising consumer awareness would help alleviate some of these problems? Like before today, did you guys realize how, I guess, in danger the world was of becoming overfished? I'll leave you answer that in this question. So do you think if more people knew, would more people make other decisions? And do you think you or your family would change your seafood choices if you knew more about these issues? So just to touch on one, guys, that I didn't look at, albacore tuna. So this is like the kind of canned tuna is very, very close to complete collapse. For example, and it's all of the kinds of tuna. So the white albacore that we have canned, the yellowtail, which is for sushi. I know some of us said we like sushi. I like sushi too. Very, very close to collapsing the entire population. Yellowfin, which is a pretty popular one to eat, sometimes for steak. Also swordfish, which I know is almost far into extinction. Shark is, I thought, on here.
Ooh, what about tilapia?
Can you go to striped bass real quick?
Striped bass, yeah, it's pretty good as well. Still, did you guys see shark? I didn't see it. I thought I saw it earlier though.
Skates are nasty.
Shark should be
They're
avoid.
like-
Yeah,
Go to the picture of the skates. Those things are nasty.
they're
They're really flat.
back page?
They're like flat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, should be avoiding those as well.
You don't even want to eat those in general.
Yeah, I would say not. But mainly, guys, the higher up, like the more carnivorous the animal is, like you don't want to eat that so much. Okay? So let's just think about, we've only got about 6 minutes left. So just take a couple sentences, put your name on it, I'm going to collect it. These 3 questions. So world's fisheries relate to population, like how's the population affected seafood consumption and why? Think about population distribution. Consumer awareness, do you think it would help these problems? And do you think that you or your family would change your ideas about it? It's okay to say, like you can say no. You can say no. Do you think though that your family would change their seafood consumption? Yeah, you can say maybe not. Or maybe you're unsure. I had no idea that tuna was
So like endangered.
Yes, well, because it was part of a lot of like fad diets. Like, what is that diet with the you just eat meat? Atkins diet.
Oh, very.
Well, the bluefin tuna are literally like falling off the face of the earth.
Yeah, tuna's in rough shape, so we gotta let them come back. Come back. Everything looks different.
Finding one now is like finding a needle in it.
So make sure you put your name on it when you're all done. Bring your books back tomorrow, well, Friday.